Hey everyone, welcome back to another Infernomon devlog. I've recently began working on implementing a power-up system for my roguelike game. In-game, as you eliminate enemy waves of Infernomon and gain experience, your team will level up. Each time a team member levels up, they will choose from a random selection of power-ups that provide unique benefits in battle. You'll be able to mix and match and stack these power-ups and build a loadout that best caters to your preferred playstyle. Like with other roguelikes, such as Vampire Survivors, your level and power-ups reset each dungeon fight, providing some variation each time you play and hopefully keeping the game feeling fresh. The past couple months have been a bit slow since I have been working overtime at work and trying to balance that with spending time with my wife and child. It's been a bit slow in terms of game development, but regardless, I have been able to make a decent amount of progress. So without further ado, let's jump right in and take a look at the updates that I did manage to complete. First thing I had to do was actually plan what power-ups I'd have in-game. I did this by working in an Excel spreadsheet. If you're not interested in Excel spreadsheets and want to skip ahead to the implementation, feel free to do that. But the way the power-ups work in-game is when you level up, it'll choose from a random selection from this power-up list for you to choose from. And then when you select that power-up, character permanently has that power-up for the remaining of the dungeon run. So it's pretty similar to other roguelikes. Your progress resets each run. So if you're not familiar with other roguelikes, this might look a little foreign to you. But let's say, for example, you have a ranged character and they level up. Maybe this exploding projectiles power-up is available. And so when they choose this, from now on, their projectiles, instead of doing single target damage, they're going to be doing multi-target damage. So your projectile will hit an enemy, it'll explode, and you'll be doing this value in damage here. So it'll hit the primary target, and then the enemies around the target will take AoE damage, and it'll be 35% of the damage caused to the primary target. Next, we have these stat columns here. So as you level up multiple times, it's possible you may select this exploding projectiles power up multiple times. So each time you select this power up, it'll increase the value by 5. So let's say you have selected this power up twice and it has 2 stacks. The value will be 35 plus 5, and so you'll start doing 40% damage to nearby enemies. And then the stack size column is how many times it can stack. Next column is we have the roles. And so if I jump over to my actual game, and I will show you the Infernomon menu where you build your team, and I'll click on Chiroptorch, for example. You can see Chiroptorch is a ranged attacker, and he is an assassin. And so if I go over to back to the spreadsheet, you can see, for example, some power-ups are only available to certain roles and attack styles. So for example, this Chiroptorch here, since he's assassin in range, he will be able to have this exploding projectiles be part of his power-up selection pool, since he is an assassin and his attack style is range. But for example, since he's a range, he won't be able to have this cleave attack as one of the power-ups he selects from. Hey, I realized I explained this wrong when I recorded the first time, and now that I'm editing, I figured I need to make it more clear what I was trying to say. But basically, Chiroptorch, since he's a ranged attacker, his move pool is going to be dependent on what slot he's in. So for example, he can be placed in the support slot or the tank slot, and then it's going to be filtered down to what slot they're in and also their attack style. So since he's a ranged attacker, he's only going to be able to select range attacks, but then his move pool will be able to be dynamic depending on what slot he's in. So you can move him to any of the slots, and his attack move pool will change based on what slot he's in. So hope that makes sense. Power-ups will also have different rarities. Right now, there's not a ton of power-ups. I just want to have enough power-ups to start playtesting and have people get their hands on this power-up feature. But basically, this rarity will be how rare it is for the power-up to be available to choose from when it's randomly selected from the pool of power-ups when you level up. And then this red section down here, these are just power-ups that didn't make the first initial cut for the power-ups I'll release for the first initial phase of playtesting, but they may come back later, and this list will probably grow to, I don't know, 40 power-ups, I think, at least, in the final release of the game. And also, this value column here, these values are just kind of my best estimate of what I think they would be to start out. But obviously, after playtesting, I'm going to rebalance all the values in the spreadsheet. So after coming up with this initial plan, I needed to start generating icons. So for that, I used ChatGPT. I'll probably, as I'm talking, show the different icons on the screen. Initially, these are just going to be placeholder icons. Some of them need to be tweaked. I think eventually, once we go through the playtesting phase, I'll have an actual artist or maybe even myself actually make legit icons. But for now, this is good enough for playtesting and get something out there that I can actually work with. So the last thing to do once I had all my power-ups planned and had the icons ready to go was to load them into GameMaker. So here's all my icons that I have here. And now these are loaded into GameMaker. It's finally time to start doing some implementation. So for the initial design, as some of you might know, is I've been using a Cursor AI to help build these some of the UI elements in my game. And so I use Cursor AI to help build the initial power-up selection screen. And so it didn't do great. I wanted to build a list of power-ups that have the power-up icon, the name of the power-up, and then the description. But you can see it didn't do a great job. So I had to go in there and tweak this and make it look a little bit better. Oh yeah, and by the way, this is my devlog journal. So every single day after I'm done developing, I will come in here and add a screenshot, add a description. So you can see this was actually quite a while ago that I built this initial view. But then you can see after I did a little bit of cleanup, it looks a little bit better. This isn't going to be the final thing. I'll show you that in a bit. But now you have your power-up selection over here. You have your icon on the top left, the stack size in the top right, and then you have the name in the description. Okay, so now I actually go and load up the actual game. I will send an enemy wave, and right now I have, if I open up a menu, I have no power-ups that are available to select from, so I will send an enemy wave, and I'll probably fast forward this part and get some experience points and level up. All right, so now we've gathered some experience points and our characters have leveled up. You can see when they level up, these icons will glow down here. I'll probably have more alerts, like actual text pop up on the screen saying power up available or something like that to make it more obvious. But for now, these icons just pop up and glow. So if I click, for example, Chiropter, so now I've done a little bit of cleaning up on the power up selection. So you can see that these are displaying as kind of these vertically long cards. And I've now hidden the description on the power ups. I'm also displaying the rarity of the power up. And I think this looks a little bit more cleaner now. And so basically what happens in the code when your character levels up and it does the selection of the different power-ups, it'll filter out and get the power-ups that are only available to the Infernomon and the current role that they're in. So you can see this Chiropter is obviously in the assassin role. So this Chiropter, since he is in the assassin slot, he'll get the assassin power-ups that are available to the assassin. Same with the support character. If I look at this support here, these power-up options are only available to the support character. Same with the tank character. They have their unique selection. Okay, so if I go look at Chiropter, let's say I see this legendary power-up here. So I'll select that. So after selecting that, I go and open up Chiropter. I currently have Perfect Shot as one of my active power-ups. Now you can see it's available again. So if I select it again, now increases that stack size to 2. And since my character is only level 3, there's only 3 power-ups available to him right now. But let's say I were to use my cheat test menu here and level up my characters multiple times. So I built a mechanic that queues your power up. So now that my character is level 9, there's going to be still 6 more power ups for him to select from. So you can see my character also leveled up and evolved. So I have evolution working in my game right now if you hadn't seen that before. But now I'll go and select a variety of different power ups, and you can see the power ups start to expand in your active power up section. Then also your power ups disappear when they max out. So now that I have 5 perfect shots, perfect shot will no longer be available. So if I level up my character a few more times, you can see that will no longer be showing up as an available power up to choose from. So I'll max out Giant Slayer, max out Ranger, and you can see the power-ups that are available are starting to shrink from the pool of available power-ups. So last thing I want to point out is this Elemental Shift power-up. So this is a power-up that's actually available to all Infernomon. In your game, your character starts out having a primary attack and a secondary attack. So for example, Chiroptorch here, he's a fire and flying Infernomon. And so when he first loads into a map, he'll have his primary attack will do fire damage and the secondary attack will do wind damage. But if I were to go and select this Elemental Shift power up, this will make it so his secondary attack will now be doing that toxic damage. So now his primary attack will do fire, his secondary attack will no longer do wind damage, and it'll do toxic damage. So that makes it so you can kind of dynamically tweak your characters on the fly to make it so that they're at least viable in multiple different dungeons that have different types of Infernomon that you're battling against. But like I said before, I do have a limited number of power-ups available right now just for playtesting. I'm only level 15 here. I plan it for your characters to max out around maybe level 30 for each dungeon run to kind of give you an idea of how many power-ups you'll have. So I'll probably at least need to double my power-up pool so you're not maxing out your power-ups, not having any available power-ups to choose from in the actual game. But now that I had the power-up selection feature working and kind of solidified, it was time to do some final polishing before I called it good for this feature. So last thing I worked on was the hovers. So you might have seen this before since I was showing you what the game looks like currently. I didn't go back in time and showed you what the UI looked like as I was developing it. But basically, the last thing I worked on was these hovers. So when I hover over this chain hill, for example, I made it so that it displays the description, and you can see that the value for the power-up is dynamic. So for example, chain hill has 1 stack already. So this power-up heals the next weakest ally near the hill target for 10% damage. So you heal your primary target, then it'll chain heal to the next target. So this perk with just 1 stack gives you 10% bonus. But then if I hover over this power up, you'll see it'll do that 10 healing plus an additional 10 healing. So I'm dynamically updating that string in code. And another change that I made is I updated the way that the text looked. So before in my game, the text had a single shadow below the text. Maybe as I'm talking, I'll show you what it looked like in the past. So what I did was I made it so there's a black shadow on all sides of the text around the main white text. And so if I go to the code, I'll go to this function that's called draw text with color and shadow. But basically what this does is it draws black text in a circle around the primary text. So it draws this black text in multiple directions around the primary text. And then at the very end, it draws the primary text in white on top of the black text. So this is a pretty expensive call. There's maybe a better way to do this. But since I don't have a lot of text on screen all at once, so I can get away with drawing the text, however many times this is, like 4, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 times. So I basically draw the text 12 times for it to get this effect where it looks like there's black text surrounding all the way around the white text. But I thought this looked better than having just plain white text or just only one shadow to the, bottom right of the text. So another thing I added to help me test the balancing of my power-ups was this power-up pool details here. It's kind of weird because it's stacking on top of my characters. It's a little bit buggy, but this is obviously just a test menu. It's not going to be in the actual final game. But basically this is going to help me with balancing so I get a good idea of how many common, uncommon, rare, epic, and legendary power-ups that I have and how many are available to the different roles and attack styles within my game. And so this menu is just a quick way for me to summarize, see, okay, what do I have available? So for example, I worked on this a bit to make it so that the total number of power-ups available to the different attack style combinations all total to 4. So there's basically 4 different power-ups available to each Infernomon as they level up. Like I said, that's not a lot right now, but I will be increasing that in the future after initial playtesting. But I think that's all I have for now. So next steps will actually be obviously implementing the power-ups in battle and making them do their actual effects that are described in their description. I think I also want to clean up this menu a bit. I don't think this looks very good. I definitely don't like this menu here. I think the power-up selection of the cards and this card layout here looks pretty good, but I'm thinking maybe this menu needs to be a little bit bigger, and maybe this, so maybe this menu here will stack above the power-up selection or something. I don't know. And maybe I'll increase the size of the character icon so it's obvious, which character is selecting a power-up from. But yeah, I think that's it. For all of you who stuck around and watched till the end, thank you. I appreciate it. Leave a comment, like, subscribe. Yeah, and I'll see you in the next one.